Hello and welcome to Best Binocular Reviews. My name is Jason and today we are going to do an unboxing. It came in a big box full of GPO stuff, but I have not yet opened this. You can see from the outside, and it wasn't a binocular that I was expecting to get, so thank you to GPO, but it's their Passion, which is HD series binocular, which is their flagship series. So this is the top of the range GPO product, and the model they've sent me is the 15 by 50. So before I open it, what am I expecting? This is a high-powered binocular with large objective lenses. So something that you're going to use for long-range observation, low light observation, perhaps with a 15 times magnification. I mean, long range with low light is how I'd put that. In general, you're probably going to want to mount this on a tripod. So obviously hoping that it's going to be tripod mountable. I'm sure it is. As usual, and as you can see, the GPO binoculars comes in, looks really nice. Already you have it's feeling that you're opening up a premium product. So here we go. As I say, I have reviewed a number of their other HD binoculars. The 42 model springs to mind, but this is my first time looking at their 15 by 50. Okay, so as you can see, for some reason, case is upside down, so that's a bit strange one. Right, so there you go. So as we can see straight away, once again, the presentation is awesome. So you've got a premium product here. Inside the box, you've got some nice cutouts there to protect the binocular in transit. Also, just a nice thing to keep in. Perhaps that if you're storing it for a long period of time. Let's start with the binocular first, rather than going on with the accessories, because quite often I do these unboxings and I spend hours talking about the accessories, and people get really annoyed because 10 minutes into the video and we still haven't looked at the binocular. Right, it's a chunky binocular. As you'd expect, it's heavy. Straight away, I've just been playing with a 10 by 42 and it feels quite a lot lighter than these. Totally understandable. Obviously, we've got now much larger 50mm objective lenses, so glass weighs quite a lot relatively, and therefore the larger lenses mean that it's obviously going to weigh a lot more. Obviously, the advantage of having larger lenses is like the windows in your house. Nice big window lets a lot of light. So these will be letting a lot more light than a smaller binocular would. Okay, so for the first thing to mention, as I'm saying, the weight is noticeably different to a 42mm binocular. At being GPO's flagship series, these use magnesium chassis and a ton of metallic parts. So for instance, their eyepiece housings and their eyepieces are all metallic. So that obviously adds to the weight. So you were never going to expect these to be a light pair of binoculars, but it's not the idea. This is not something that we're going to use, just put it in your backpack or anything like that. This is a long-range, high-powered binocular. Just to get the elephant out of the room and make sure, yes, 100%, they are tripod adaptable. With a 15 times binocular, you can use it from the hands and get a relatively steady image. But if you're going to be looking at something for any length of period of time, you're going to want to put it on a stable stand or something like that. So that's quite often a thing, is people will go and buy the most powerful binocular out there, 15 times, 18 times. No matter how good your optics are, if there's a slight movement, because you're holding them on the hands, that jittery movement means that you're never going to see a clear, crisp image unless you mount it onto a tripod. As with all GPO binoculars, I really like the feel of the rubber armor on the outside. This has a bit more of a grippy feel to some of the binoculars that I've used of theirs in the past. So their rubber feels quite tactile. Definitely provides more grip than some rubbers that are harder and less tactile than this. I just wonder over time, sometimes these sort of types of rubbers can get a bit too tacky over time. I guess only then a long-term test. If you notice, I quite like the fact that they have aluminium parts up here. So rather than plastic, as you expect at this price range, you would, if it was full of plastic parts, it wouldn't be great. As per usual with GPO, their focus wheel is really large. It isn't metal like some products do. Having said that, the body itself feels really good, and I really do like this large tactile rubber grip that they have on here. So like today, using it outside would be it's a bit overkill, but if in winter when you're wearing really thick gloves and your hands are cold, having a really large focus wheel like this to locate firstly with thick gloves on, and then be able to adjust quite accurately is a good thing to have. So the next thing I'll notice on these is the thumb indent underneath. Now, once again, this is a really minor thing, but especially with a long pair of binoculars like this, it's quite nice to have this here because it just encourages you to hold the binocular in the right way. And so when you bring them up to your eyes, they feel nice and balanced. And once again, this goes into the fact that they're a high-powered binocular. If you are going to be using them from the hands, if you get it in a nice, holding them correctly in a nice balanced way, you're going to get a more stable image than otherwise. From the initial looks of it, they look like a premium product, they feel like a premium product, and they definitely weigh like a premium product. I like the fact that they have a top hinge design. Once again, look how much space you've got to hold on to the binocular there. You know, only when you're glassing, lots of space, but let's say you're carrying them around, not using a neck strap, you know, there's a lot of space so that you get a good firm grip on them. So that's the actual binocular. As usual with the high-end thing, just to mention, they have double ED lenses over here, so that means they've got two elements within the lens, each of these different lenses that are ED glass. The prisms are dielectrically coated and phase corrected coatings on the actual lenses, which are obviously fully multi-coated. So that being every single lens element throughout the system has been multiply coated with anti-reflection coatings. Right, okay, so let's move on to the accessories. As usual with GPO, the case is pretty, now for me, standard, but you know, if this was your first GPO product, it's a really nice looking case. It's built really well. As you can see, it has a semi-rigid construction, so once your binoculars, and in this case, this is a really chunky, heavy binocular, so you want to have a lot of protection for it. So if you were to drop it, it'll take quite a lot to crush this case. So it has a zipped closure, which has its advantages in that it's a much more secure case, obviously, less chance of it opening by accident or anything like that. But it takes you just that fraction longer to get into the case. And then also with a zip, it does make a little bit of noise. So, you know, certain people might be slightly put off by this, or you just have to be aware for this. So, you know, if you're a birder, for instance, and you're quite close to the birds that your subjects that you're looking at, just be careful to open the zips quietly or leave the case behind and just put a neck strap on. Just something to keep in mind. Okay, so inside, it's fairly typical for GPO. They put all the accessories inside the case for their packaging. First off, we have their instruction booklet. It'll get you up and going. For anything else you need to know about binoculars, do check out the link down below and go to the website. I have way more than these guys will ever put in there. Okay, so next up we'll do the objective lens covers. GPO, they love this design. I'm not a super fan of them just because compared to some, it takes a little bit longer than some to. It's usually easier to do it down on a surface like that to get the lens cover in there. So they can be a bit of a pain to put in and out, and then sometimes they can actually fall away quite easily. So for me, they don't provide the best protection than some lens covers out there. They're not actually also tethered to the binocular. This you would tether to either your harness or your neck strap, which for me, you can actually tether them to that ring over there, which I have done in the past. So you can fix them to the binocular, but even so, this for me is a slight compromise. I prefer ones that actually the objective lens cover clicks into the actual body or something like that. The one nice aspect to this, I guess you would say, is that it looks pretty premium once you have them attached. For me, this is one of the weaker aspects to GPO's accessories. Right, next up we may as well do the ocular lens covers. Very standard. So they've got a bridge here that you can allow it to be stored by opening and closing the binoculars. You can store it any which way you want. You would thread your neck strap through there to keep it attached to that, and you can have this so that it slides off on one side. They fit nicely onto the eyepieces, and so no chance that they're going to come away by accident. You can feel straight away that, and I can actually see that the eye cups themselves are made from are metallic and not plastic. They really have a nice action to them, click really well into each of the click stops, and I've just been using a pair that have plastic, and these definitely are better. You do notice the difference when you compare next to each other. Nice and solid, so they're not going to go anywhere. I'm not sure exactly how much eye relief these binoculars have, but it looks like a ton. All those specifications, by the way, will be on the BBL website once you look at, once I've taken these away and fully reviewed them. In the future, I mean, I'll put a link down below to that review, which will happen in the future once I've had a chance to test these and use them out in the field. Yeah, so I do like the fact that there's very little play once even fully extended. So that's really good quality. Focus wheel has a really light action, actually. I wasn't expecting that. So it turns really easily. The advantage of that, it's obviously easier to turn. Personally, I prefer just a little bit more resistance to movement, because quite often, you know, you could have an accidental movement of the focus. Yeah, it's very nitpicky. It's not like it's just spinning around or it's got free play or anything like that, but it is a very light action. I guess if you want to just use your pinky finger to adjust the focus, it could be an advantage. There you go. The hinge itself, it's one thing actually with a big pair of binoculars like this, as you can see, it's a top hinge design, which I've already mentioned, but it's a very thin hinge in comparison to the size of the barrels and stuff like that. Sort of fearful on some, if it wasn't robust enough, that you could actually misalign the two barrels, which would obviously be catastrophic for the view. But this feels robust. I mean, obviously only time, or if I had to slam it on the floor, I'd find out if it was strong enough, which I'm not going to do. But yeah, it feels nice and robust. And I like the fact that the hinge itself, unlike the focus wheel, which is really turns very easily, the hinge has a lot of resistance to movement, not too much, so that it will stay at any of your IPD setting. Obviously, IPD, I mean your intrapupillary distance, so just so that the eye cups match the distance between your eyes. As you can see, it'll stay at that setting quite happily. Right, so we are looking at the neck strap, and it is GPO's standard neck strap that they use for all their binoculars. So it's a really good quality neck strap, and with a chunky, heavy binocular like this, it's understandable that they have a nice, chunky, heavily padded neck strap. So this will take all the weight because it's got a really large surface area. I like the fact it has a slight curve to it. So once it's fits onto your neck, goes around your neck like that, it just fits more naturally. On top of that, on the underside here, they have a sort of neoprene grippy surface, which once again is a nice feature in that it just prevents the strap from sliding left to right. Now, sometimes with a cheaper binocular, you get a really cheap neck strap. It doesn't have any of these features, and it's just almost, it's just like putting a string around your neck, this is the exact opposite. So as you can see, the stitchings look really, really good. The only slight down point to it is the normal way of threading it through, and then through the slider here, you can obviously adjust the length of the strap. I would just prefer to have seen it if it had a quick release clip or something like that, just so that you can remove or take away the neck strap as easily as possible. So especially for a binocular like these, where you're going to mount it onto a tripod, possibly quite a few people, or take it out into the field, it'd be nice to be able to quickly clip on the neck strap and take it out in the field, and when you get back and put it on your balcony, for example, be able to take the neck strap off really easily and then just click this onto your tripod. So that's one sort of feature that I think slightly GPO have dropped the ball a bit on there. This seems to be a new thing from GPO. I don't think I've seen these on their products before. They have a new lens cleaning cloth. It's just a higher level, and so it's sort of nicely packaged like that. You can fix it to your binocular, your neck strap, or to wherever you want. It keeps the cloth itself clean inside its little case over here. So that's nice to see. Really good quality. Once again, for a premium optic like this would be fine to, obviously clean the body. Obviously perhaps use the outer or a different side of the cloth. If you're going to have to clean the lenses, it would just be for like an emergency use out in the field. I would strongly suggest, if you're going to spend this amount of money on a pair of optics, go out and get a proper lens cleaning kit just to look after the lenses as best as you can. Having said that, the cloth they supply is really nice, and I like the sort of little touch that you can fix it to whatever you like. Moving on to the carry case. We've briefly spoken, it's semi-rigid. It has a really nice felt inside. So before I spoke about these the objective lens covers not being my favorite, this is nice in the fact that you can comfortably store your binoculars in here and not have to worry about the actual binocular getting scratched the lenses. One thing I'll notice about the case is, I think this is the same size case that they use for their full-size binoculars. So this one being slightly oversized, it's noticeable straight away that it fits very tightly into the case. As you can see there, for me to put it into the case, I had to retract the eye cups, because otherwise it won't fit. And then even so, it's quite a tight fit. Now, the plus side to this, it ain't gonna shake around when you're walking. The downside is it's a bit of a pain to put it in and take it out. So every time you replace your binoculars into the case, you're going to have to put it up and down. Now, it takes half a second to do that, but if you're doing it all the time, I would rather not have to do it. That's I guess the point there. So, but other than that, the case, as usual, is a really high quality, really nice case. It comes with its own strap, which is not nearly on the same level as the neck strap. It has quick release clips, which is a good thing. Which we spoke about on the neck strap already. So I like the swivel one so it doesn't get twisted up, and it also has a slider here so that this once again will take the weight, not as well as the neck strap will, but on the actual case itself. So yeah, there you have it. On the whole, as I was expecting with their higher-end product, it looks and feels premium. I'm super impressed by how the The eyepieces, the eye cups and all that, they work really well. Focus mechanism, as I wouldn't say it's too loose, but it's surprising how easy it is to turn, especially with such a big binocular. I wasn't expecting that. Oh, and one thing I haven't mentioned over there, this is one thing that a premium product has that most cheaper instruments wouldn't have. Usually you'd have your diopter on the right eyepiece over here. So like some binoculars, the diopter adjustment is incorporated, and could be one of the reasons why the mechanism is quite a lot looser than I was expecting. Just the diopter setting, you pull back on the actual focus wheel and then turn it like that. I like it has a ratcheted adjustment. If you don't know how to set up the binoculars for your eyesight, once again, check out the BBR website. I go through it in detail, but basically it allows for any differences in your vision between your right and left eye. So because it'll adjust the focus slightly on one side of the barrel independently of the other. The great thing about these is because it's set like this, is it's lockable. So let's say your settings like that, you can lock it back in place and then it won't move out of its position by accident at all. Cheaper binoculars don't have this feature, and so it's a nice touch to have. Right, so I'm going to go away now and I'm going to spend some time enjoying these and using them out. I'm going to do things like use them in low light for sure, just to see how well they do over there. After some testing, I'm going to then write the full review. In the future, if you check out this video, there will be a link to that review down below. So I'm going to leave the video there for now, and I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and I'm going to see you next time. Cheers for now.